Hey, everybody. Guess what? It's Monday night. That means it's time for Disputed Lands. It's Take on the World TV. We just got to see Chris and Liz. Looks like they're on a loop. They're still heading back and stuck in Cincinnati, Ohio somewhere. I don't know how that works on the flat earth model, but somehow there in Cincinnati, it gets you go forward and then you have to go through Cincinnati again somehow on the flat earth map. I haven't seen it. Somebody will have to show it to me, but I'm sure there's a logical explanation for that. Tonight, he just dropped off. I'll have to bring him back in. Darrin, you to live for the kingdom, Geisinger. Though you can't see him, it's because he is still on a kind of a sketchy setup where he's at. He's going to have fiber optic here in a couple weeks. But the first thing I want to let you know is you can see his lovely picture there on the promo. Darrin is a good friend. It was actually a year and 2 weeks ago, almost to the day, that Darrin made his first appearance on Disputed Lands back when we were over there hosted on Now You See TV, where he's sharing about his book, Zero G's. We're going to talk to Darrin, but before we get into that, I want to remind you that you need to go to the archesofegypt.com store for your head warmers. They're $10 plus shipping. A few of you have got them. It's cold here in the northern part of the United States, so you want to get your head warmer. If you're like Darrin and I and you have no hair, these really come in handy. These really come in handy. They're Velcro. Well, they're Velcro strap. Disputed Lands head warmers. They're really nice, but you'll want to get that. There's a limited quantity. I'm hoping they'll sell out. I've sold almost half of them. So on how quickly they sell depends on how quickly I get more back in and we get some different gear. We are working on something behind the scenes as well. You and I have been talking. It's not just Disputed Lands with Chad Schaefer anymore. It's Chad and Ian, and also going to be part-time when he's got fiber optic coming in a few weeks. Right, Darrin?
That's right. So I will sound much better than this when I try to step in for you and co-host or guest host the show. Yes, the fiber optic is hanging there in the yard. It's torturing us because it's just hanging there and they have not trenched it up to the house yet. But they promise it within 3 to 6 weeks we're going to have fiber internet. So this is the last time you hear like this sketchy Undisputed Lands.
That's right. Darrin is going to be stepping in as a co-host, fill in. He's going to be hosting from time to time as he has stuff that he needs and wants to share. He'll be stepping in and hosting the Disputed Lands show and giving Chad and Ian and I a break so we can work on projects of more Disputed Lands or other projects, or just a rest for that matter. But Darrin, tonight we're going to come on and talk first of all about raising up the remnant. Tell me about raising up the remnant. What is it? What's going on? You guys have been hosting conferences for a while now, so fill me in on this.
Yeah, well, thanks for asking, and thanks for having me on tonight, Chad. I'm really enjoying coming on. And in raising up the remnant and explaining that, it's kind of my testimony as well. So, why do we need another conference? So, my wife and I to become, tour pursuit, and as we were coordinating the True Legends conference in Branson, Missouri. And so we had some experience under our belt, but it wasn't, exactly what lit our heart. What lit our heart was really the tour pursuing community who are pagan holidays and gravitating the feasts, the appointed feasts of Yah, who are looking to get out of the Babylon system in a number of ways, spiritually, but also physically. We're starting to become more self-sustainable in getting away from big box stores, getting away from big farm, big ag, and starting to grow things. we had a chance to create a conference, and what better time to do it than at the end of December when you might be speaking is just trying to duck away from the madness. We want to give people something to look forward to. So it is in Potosi, Missouri, which is near St. Louis.
We just lost him again. And we unfortunately, we may end up cutting this short tonight and having Darrin back on again to redo this when he gets his fiber. I got a text from Ian just a little bit ago. He's not going to be on tonight either. But I wanted to share, in case you missed that last part. Darrin says that they had a lot of experience hosting conferences by doing the Gen 6 conference. So if you want to, Gen 6, that's on your screen now. That's a host. They host that one. That's the Steve Quayle conference. I'm going to ask Darrin some questions about that too here coming up. Darrin, are you back with us?
I go measure, yes, where did I drop off? And hopefully, 6 to 8 p.m. where we're at, even through 9 p.m. is kind of like the high internet usage part. So it should have from here. Where do you want me to pick up?
Well, you were talking about go ahead and reiterate for us, if you would, the reason for the conference, because you actually broke up through a lot of that before you dropped out.
Oh, okay. Well, you pulled up. I mean, if it gets to be too much, but I will try again. The reason for the conference was just my wife and I were starting to follow the feasts, the appointed time feasts of Yah, get away from pagan holidays. And we thought that something at the end of December where the Torah pursuant could gather, be encouraged and strengthened, and fellowship would be a great idea. So at the end of December, people can go to raisinguptheremnant.com and take a look at the Trout Lodge there in Potosi, Missouri, which is near St. Louis. And you can kind of see it's a small venue, and it should be a great time. Let me stop right there and let you come back in lest I drop off.
You were doing great. I got it, the website there on the screen. So you're going to be doing this in December when the Torah pursuant, those who are coming into the knowledge of the feast and everything can, it's really not going to interrupt any of that time, and they can kind of take a break and come. Now,
Chad,
let me ask you this.
A remnant does have, this is what I always have trouble with. Remnant has an N after the M. I hate that. I've spelled, that's the hardest thing about putting on this conference is spelling remnant correctly. I hate that. I spell it that way all the time, and the links never work. So it is remnant with an N there after the M.
Yeah. Okay. So I just fixed it. There. I just fixed it on the screen for you guys.
Sweet.
Remnant.com. And now I saw the list of speakers, and just in case those guys followed the bad link I was posting, who's going to be speaking there?
The names are Barbara Klicka, Brennan Falks. He's a financial guy that will talk about maybe if you're going to change properties or just other financial rules according to the Torah. So he's kind of a financial guy.
Yeah, he was actually a guest at Take on the World, so people ought to be a little familiar with him. Go ahead.
Yeah, and Braden and Tolly Waller, which I have not met in person yet, but they have quite a following, and they are going to be speaking to the teens as well as the adults. And then Dr. Michael Lake, which I think a lot of people would know Michael Lake.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And
good buddy.
Right. And then Steve Mutria from Torah Family will be there. And Tom Stapleton. Tom Stapleton, if you guys don't know him yet, it's kind of funny how he's building a Torah pursuant community in Canada. So a lot of people down here might not know Tom Stapleton, but he will be speaking about prophecy, about getting out of the city, and about building Torah community. So he's going to be speaking on a wide array of topics.
That's awesome. And what are those dates?
This 26th through 29th. Yes, and Potosi is near St. Louis. And we've gone kind of a feel of a vacation with all the amenities. Be able to come right out of your room and go to the presentation area. You're not going to have to drive around. We're going to have the whole facility to ourselves, so you're not going to be running into anyone who's not at the conference. And it's basically all the amenities of a vacation, but with the fellowship, encouragement, and power of a conference. All the food is included, biblically clean, and even Sabbath-friendly food is going to be included. There's a great cafe area, lots of fireplaces for people to gather around. We're going to do fire pits outside even, and there's going to be nighttime zip lining for the kids. I mean, Trout Lodge has a whole bunch of activities to do when you're not busy with the conference. But this is kind of a different type of a feel than some people might be familiar with. Like I said, it's going to have the amenities and comfort and memories of a vacation, but the power of an encouraging and meaty conference.
You guys, you and your wife have been on quite a journey over the last several years, I would say. We spoke a little bit about that the last time you were on, but we talked mostly about your book. Darrin, this is going to be heart to heart from just between us and a lot of people sitting in here listening in. If you had to sum up in just a few words, and I'm saying that just so you don't feel pressure to use a lot of that you have to talk for a long time, what would you say that your journey has been like over the last few years in regards to what you've learned, your family, leading up to this Raising on the Remnant? Can you describe what that's been like for you?
It's been difficult to pull the claws of the world out of me. It's taken several years. Going back, we thought that Idaho was going to be our last stop where we were going to get our homestead and live out the rest of our days. But we lost our son. An 8-year-old son was hit by a car. I think I did mention that last time we were on a show. Yes. Philip, and that was very tragic for us. And it started a journey of finding ourselves and figuring out what Yah wanted us to do. And we quickly discovered it was to pursue his Torah and the word and the living word all simultaneously. And we ended up moving to the Ozarks instead, not only to just get away from where we were, but it was where Father wanted us all along. So we really had, from Cleveland to Idaho to the Ozarks was quite a roundabout. And I think a lot of people can relate to that, where they've gone the wrong direction. And Father's patient, and he keeps guiding. And so my wife was, to her credit, Nikki, has always been pushing for the homeschooling and into the get to growing more stuff on our own, and even pursuing the Torah, and even moving to the Ozarks. So I'm looking to lead here at some point, but she's always at the point woman, and it's me coming behind. Yeah, I put bread on the table, but I don't have a lot to brag about other than that. And so I give her all the credit in the world. And so, yeah, I've been friends with Timothy Alberino and Steve Quayle for some time, and started doing the True Legends conference because we were pretty close to Branson, and my wife's and I's skill sets leaned heavily to putting on an event like that. So when Raising Up the Remnant came on, it was like, yeah, that's our real community. That's the Torah pursuant. Not that True Legends isn't. It's starting to become more that, because you got Michael Lake at True Legends, and you've got some other really good friends of ours speaking a lot of really good, truth into that. But this Raising Up the Remnant is close to our hearts, because we really want to teach people to get out of the city, for one thing, but also the spiritual preparedness. We're not into prepping. We're actually anti-prepping. We're more like go back to Yah's original design for life. And so now that we've had our homestead for only 2 years, I can tell you we are far from experts. I'm not going to be getting on any stage any platform anytime soon and claiming I know how you homestead. It's almost like if we can do it, anyone can. That's kind of our testimony. I want to give it back to you to see if I'm going the direction that you want.
You know, in thinking about your journey you were listening to and watching and reading the same things I and a number of other people were that are probably watching right now here 5 years ago. It seemed like there was just a continual buzz of new information. And I'm going to share my thoughts, and you can kind of tell me what you think. But it seems to me now there seems to be some settling down, and now people are really getting to the dirty work of, okay, so we've got this information, the Gen 6 information, the alien agenda, the CERN stuff. We have all that information, the biology. I was filling in as host for Derek and Sharon, for Pastor Mike Spalding, and I had guests as my guests, Derek and Sharon Gilbert, and they were sharing some of the things that they keep an eye on their Sci Friday show, and it's just blown my mind away. But now we're getting into that nitty gritty. It seems like okay, what's the practical application of everyday living? Would you agree with that sentiment, or do you think that there's what do you think that really is the atmosphere of the believers right now?
That is a great topic, Chet. That's why you are who you are, and that's why these people listening should be grateful for you, because that's an awesome subject. And I noticed it when we did Feast of Tabernacles and Sukkot with Steve Mutria and Torah family here in the Ozarks recently. There was quite a maturity and a richness in the fellowship that wasn't caught up in all the tidbits of tantalizing information, but more about, okay, just like you said, we know about Gen 6 now. We've gone down that rabbit trail. We know about this, that. The shape of the earth is always there at the topic, but honestly, nobody was talking about that. It was like for the community to decide their differences and stop arguing and start growing closer to the Father and listening and hearkening to His voice. I saw a tremendous maturity, and my wife and I have a passion to kind of get the word out about information addiction. Because they listen to programs like this, they listen to Skywatch TV and a host of very informative shows, and they're fantastic enough. We have mutual friends that I could just tell. With my wife and I are passionate to start talking about people taking certain actions, and granted, it's reading the word and doing the word and not walking away and forgetting what you look at, as the scriptures look like, as the scriptures say. You have to be a doer, but people are getting enough information now that they really need to start considering their next step of action. So but I see that happening, and I think the True Legends theme is now, past cataclysms and coming catastrophes, and I'm going to be trying to warn people right away that they better be stopping, eternal information circulation and better start taking some action. I don't know where you want to go with that, but yeah, I agree with you. I think we're maturing as a movement.
Yeah, you're good friends with Timothy Alberino, and I'm going to use our friendship to try to get to talk to him. I'll be honest, I haven't had a chance. I love that guy, the information and the way his mind works, and the fact that he's so articulate. Him and Derek Gilbert, I tell you, they are the best people to have on the radio and doing interviews that you could ever want. I seek to imitate their ability to speak clearly and concisely, and to say exactly what they want to say. I mean, it's a gift. It really is a gift to see them. But I'm interested to know their thoughts. And what's it like, Darrin? You've met and worked with Steve how's Steve doing these days? I actually haven't heard. There was a time where I heard everything that Steve did, and I heard, every time he and Tom were on the Hagman Report, I was there listening. But how is Steve and Timothy doing? They doing okay?
They're great. They're great. Timothy is actually not with Gen 6 anymore. He's pursuing about 3 or 4 different things right now. I talked to Tim for over an hour today. He's always fascinating to talk to. Not that we don't do it as frequently as we used to, but he's doing great. He's pursuing a TV show that I'm not sure what I can divulge about that, but it's several networks are reviewing it.
Well, if you can't, then don't. But I just want to know that they're doing well, and
they're doing well, and several networks are reviewing, Timothy's show. But again, he's looking at 3 or 4 projects. He's finishing his book. That's going to be quite a page turner. So he's doing well with that. Steve Quayle, in fully now in control of Gen 6 Productions, is doing fantastic. I think he had his best presentation out of a lot of great presentations. He had his best presentation at last year's True Legends, and he's very excited. He really enjoys the pre-Adamic conversation and going into the history of the Earth. And exactly the topic that we'll be going into, the gap theory, as many people know it, the space between Genesis verse 1 and 2. Steve's doing great.
That's awesome. Well, I know that you had a few topics on your mind, and I don't want to neglect going over those. So if you have anything in your notes that you wanted to bring up, please go ahead and do that, Darrin, and we can talk about that. Your own writing career. We can talk about what's coming up with that too as well. But go ahead, jump in here.
Okay. Can you hear me okay?
Oh yeah, we can hear you fine.
Okay, good. Well, everybody should know that when I get this show someday, I will not be so measured in my speaking. But I guess with the internet connection, I have to speak slowly lest I overwhelm the system. But I can't wait till I get fiber and we can really let her rip. People have to hear that in itself someday to really experience the full on Darrin. What I guess the first thing I want to talk about is this idea of really being against prepping, because I'm a homesteader. So why would I be against prepping? Firstly, I changed that term over to responsible planning at one point, and just tried to take out the bad connotations of Y2K prepping and get everybody onto a new mindset that way. But I've come to the conclusion that the prepping in itself is the cart before the horse. There's a big thing going on that my wife and I are passionate about, and that's going back to Yah's original design for life, which was getting your hands dirty in the dirt and raising a lot of your own fruits, vegetables, animal husbandry, taking care of the land, relying on him for rain. These are the things that once you start doing it and you get away from the corporate rat race and the long commutes in the concrete jungles, you start to realize, why is Agenda 21 getting everyone into the cities, and what have we done? And if we go all the way back, what is the first thing Cain did after he was exiled and murdered Abel? He went and did what, Chad? Do you remember what did he do?
Yeah, he built the city.
He built a city, and what do cities do? And in my mind, they really start to have you give away your responsibilities to other people. You become a foreman, you become in charge, you become a business owner, and you get other people to raise your animals for you. You get your other people to fix this and that for you. And honestly, you bypass the curse. You start to be able to eat without the sweat of your brow. And you start to be able to shop at Walmart and get something for just pennies on the dollar, and you never have to take care of it anymore. And that in itself seems convenient, but there's 2 things that can happen. One, it disrupts Yah's design for life. And the other thing that it does is, if something ever should go wrong, what are you going to have? There's now millions and billions of people who have, 3 oranges, a case of, a jar of peanut butter, and some tuna in the fridge, and they're living in a high rise somewhere. And so not only does it just interrupt the good style that I feel like that is destined for people to life, get out of the city and get back to his ways, but also if something should ever go wrong, what are people going to do? I think it's a tremendously tall, fragile house of cards that's getting built, and it's not going to take much for that bottom card to come out. So that's what I would say, is that part of the Raising Up the Remnant message and conference is not, there's 2 wings in the logo, and one of the wings is certainly the spiritual preparedness, and that's why Michael Lake is going to be talking to that. Steve Mutry is going to be talking. Barbara Klicka is going to be talking to that. But the other wing is, let's take a fresh look, and I think people might know the ministries of Zach Bauer and American Homestead. Zach was going to be a key speaker. Unfortunately, his wife's family and health situation has really it hurts my heart just to think why he cannot be. May still, but it doesn't look good. But his look up Zach Bauer and the American Homestead and his message, because that's the other wing of the Raising Up the Remnant logo. It's to get out of the cities, get your hands back into the dirt, and get back to Yah's original design for life.
Yeah, I would have to agree with that. Yeah, I mean, it goes to get the first, the command was go into the world, fill the earth, right? Go out into all the world, fill the earth. And you're right, exactly right. Cain's first thing he did was started not filling the earth, but gathering people together into one location to be not dependent on the Father, but really interdependent with the head. Really, his name on the city, the city of Cain. It's
right.
And this is exactly, and I don't know if you know this or not, but Janus, if you ever look up the ancient encyclopedia, it talks about a guy by the name of Janus, and when it gives the description of who this guy is, it matches almost to the T of Cain.
Wow.
Janus was said to be the one of the founders, along with Romulus and Remus, of the founders of the city of Rome. So, there's always that. And we lost Darrin there for a second. But I would agree. Yeah, he's back. He's back. We're going to have that a little bit here and there. But I would agree. I mean, it comes down to the basics of life and what it means. Yes, it's important to know your neighbor and to have good friends. But the Father really wanted us to be dependent on Him. And to be dependent on Him, there was that known aspect to all our when you talk about our grandparents specifically, you're going back to grandparents and great grandparents, they knew they were dependent on the seasons, the rain coming in due season, the winter, coming in due season, the crops growing, the weather. They knew and had a real sense of the earth and the seasons and the animals, what was needed to survive. They understood those things. And we really, most of us do not understand those things today. And if you're right, I mean, if the power goes out today, if the power in the internet goes out, if the trucks stop delivering to the local store, what will that look like? Probably not very pretty. There's actually a show that I'm watching kind of as a research thing, just to see how it's going on Netflix right now. It's called The Society. And it's really a take on the same theme of that book that you read back when you were in high school as required reading, where the kids get stuck on the stranded island, right? What's the name of that book again? Somebody.
Lord of the Flies.
Lord of the Flies. Lord of the Flies, right? So it's really just another take on that. It's called The Society. It's a bunch of teenage high school kids that are all of a sudden their parents are gone and they can't leave town. And now they're left to society on their own without any influence, without any outside contact, and exactly what is that society going to look like? Well, what does that society look like, for us? What, as a society of believers? That's a great question, Darrin. I think I'm glad you're a brother that's kind of tackling that question and bringing it up for discussion in a real world scenario for people who are relying on the Lord. What does that look like? Am I right about that? Is that kind of what you?
Yeah. So can you hear me? Okay. First, let's do a test.
Oh yeah, we can hear you. You're back.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
All right. Your question is, what does our society look like as the remnant believers start to leave the system of Babylon, or do you mean what is going on?
Yeah.
With okay. What does that look like?
Yeah. Perfect.
Well, that's again going back to what I was talking about before. When I've watched ditching Christmas and the materialistic hoorah that all that was, I watched a tremendous improvement in my children take place immediately. And had nothing to do with religion whatsoever. It was just about getting their attention back on people and relationships and speaking and being in reality rather than in fantasy. And again, that goes back to the cart and the horse. If you're getting back to the land and unplugging and starting to reject the Babylonian system before they pull the plug. If you're doing it now, you're going to watch and not prepping. You're doing it because it's the proper design for life. You're going to see a wealth of benefits start to flood into your family as you ride this horse forward and experience all those things you're talking about. Homeschooling, for sure. If your kids are public school, you got to get them out of this ASAP. I saw a question about what should believers be doing. So if you got to homeschool, I would buy any kind of land. It doesn't have to be 50 acres. It can be 3 acres. But get out of the populated cities as quickly as possible. And all of this is just because it's better. Then you have this cart behind you that's basically an escape hatch to freedom, I call it. So if something should go wrong, you turn around and then all of a sudden, well, you do have a garden. You do have breeding pairs of animals. You do have a chicken coop that's thriving, and you do have a means that just happens to be there later, but it's not the reason for doing it. And I think there's some of those questions about what the remnant has to say no to and what's the future in the next 10 years look like. Vaccinations are one of those things. There's lots of hot topics. We cover those at Raising Up the Remnant, this December.
I want to talk about chickens for a second. This might have not been what you thought you were going to talk about tonight, but so my wife and I, a number of years ago, when we were in the 2-story house, and we're working our way back out to the country as well. I'm not going to go into that, but we had chickens for a couple of years. Do you know how hard it is to keep them suckers from getting ate? Okay, so I'm serious. There is everything. You got coyotes trying to eat them. You got hawks trying to eat them. You got dogs trying to eat them. And you know what else tries to eat chickens?
People?
No, besides people.
Possums.
Possums love chickens. So we had this possum go up next to the chicken coop. I thought, oh, he can't do anything, but he sat there. Those suckers look like they're slow. As soon as the chicken got over there next to it, that sucker grabbed him, pulled him up next to the thing, and was gonna eat him. I saved that one, but he came back later and got a chicken. I started off with about a dozen chickens, and I would say within the span of one summer, I had a dozen or more. I had probably 13 or 14 chickens. By the end of that first summer, you know how many I had? 3.
1, 2, 3. Hey.
I'm
Yeah,
telling you,
they do go fast. We lost one to a possum one time, but honestly, I think we've lost probably 4 or 5 out of the 20 we have. So we're doing fairly well. An automatic door to the chicken coop is a good idea. That shuts automatically.
That's why everything tastes like chicken. It's so the chickens can live. You know, he's trying to spread it out so that your actual chickens might have a chance. That's why everything tastes like chicken.
We have sheep and lambs right here in the middle of the works, and I mean coyotes are everywhere. And someone saw a mountain lion cougar right next to our property. We have yet to lose a lamb, so that's good. Well, you got to have Yah watching over you. You got to be in prayers about it. And you got to have some good fencing, and you got to have some livestock guardian dogs as well.
Yeah, I mean, these are all the things that you don't realize. You think, okay, yeah, you just put a little barn out there, you put some chicken wire up, and you're good to go. It's not that easy. I mean, it's really not. You have to be vigilant when you have livestock. You do have to have all these things. But how are you going to learn this, Darrin, if we don't begin, or if we don't have people around us who have already gained that wisdom?
Honestly, you know, they say that what necessity is the mother of invention. You get a chicken coop, you get 20 chickens, and you put them out there, and you start to see them get eaten. You're going to be amazed at how quickly you formulate ways to keep them from getting eaten. So I wouldn't have anybody hesitate about getting involved in a homestead or getting back to the land because you're nervous about that kind of stuff. You'll figure it out.
Yeah, but that's what my point is, you know, we got to begin now. And it's great to have resources of friends, of people who have already began to do this, to set it out. People like the Bowers, yourselves. We got traveling couples like the Wegmans right now, right? And the Reynoldses and Stovers who are learning to live this way. We see a number of people. You know, I don't know if you watched that episode, Darrin. Might have been, we had Adam on. He was talking about, and Joni, lovely couple. Do you know those guys?
I think I am familiar. They sound familiar.
Okay, so they got their bus, their home that they're living in, but one of their desires is their focus is desires to create this camp, Christians couples retreat, so where they can do counseling one-on-one, and Christian couples can do a vacation thing. But there seems to be a stirring. You all in the chat can tell me if I'm wrong. And I even had a conversation not long ago with Chris Bailey about this, because the Father's stirring in their hearts too, about there seems to be a mobilization going on of activity, both those who are learning to live on the road and those who have a place to stay, a real place to live and sustain. The Father seems to be stirring this in people's hearts. And then you got folks like me are just trying to make sure that people are connected with all the right people. But I am so thankful, Darrin, that you guys are doing this. And one of these days, I'll probably be picking your brain too. I've grown up and grew up in farm country and around animals and stuff. But I'm not afraid to tell you that there's still a lot I don't know. Like, and you think, oh, you got all that farmland. Well, all the farmland and I was thinking about this yesterday and thinking about our interview, Darrin. All the farmland that's around us now grows principally 2 products, corn and soybeans. But this is industrial
all GMO,
corn.
Probably all GMO stuff too.
All GMO, and it's industrial. Okay, so this corn that is grown is used in other things, everything else but food. It's used to make starch, which is used to make, yes, glue, but it goes into inks, it goes into plastics, it goes into corn is used in the manufacture of many, many, many hundreds, and they're finding new uses every day for cornstarches. And the same with soybeans. This is stuff that is not ate. My dad, I remember my dad actually worked for years before he retired at a place called National Starch and Chemical. It's right here in Indianapolis. And I remember he brought home, he goes, "Here, guys, try this." And he put applesauce on the plate. We ate it. There's not a single, it tasted good. It tasted, listen to that hick coming out. It tastes good. There wasn't a single apple in it. It was pure corn that was fabricated to be applesauce.
What you're talking about, Chad, what you're talking about, Chad, is a ticking time bomb. People
right.
are familiar with the Great American Dust Bowl, where they didn't understand about farming and rotational and whatnot. I mean, they pretty much destroyed the land and created massive famine. Well, we all are familiar with the 4 riders of the apocalypse, the 4 horsemen, and one is famine. And the time bomb is now destroying our ecosystem and maximizing this and abominations with that. The world, as Christ Jesus, Yeshua said it himself, there's never been a time of trouble before it or like it since what's coming, because the house of cards just keeps getting taller.
Yeah, and it just makes me wonder, how many people, and how much land do you actually need to sustain a small community of believers, of people who are able and skilled to actually live and be able to rely upon each other instead of the Babylonian system, where you have the farmers in the community and everybody's providing food to that community. You got people who know how to be carpenters and the handyman kind of thing, those who know how to make clothes and clothe people, really, which just covers the basic needs, right? Because you need what to live. You need food, water, and shelter. Right? These are the basic things that we all need for life. Those are the basic things: food, water, and shelter. So if you had a community that had a fresh spring running water on it, they grew their own food, and they can provide shelter and clothing, how many people would it actually take to do that and be totally separate? I don't know the answer to that. I know what Plato thought of it. He thought it was 2,520 people, which actually happens. He did.
That's interesting.
That's the number. Well, it's the sacred cubit. Many tekel uparson.
Right. Can you hear me? Can you hear me okay?
Oh yeah, you're coming through fine.
Okay, good. Well, yeah, I'm still apologize to all the listeners out there who made it this far. It's the last time I'll sound this choppy. Can't wait for fire.
Well, yeah.
Okay, so
what are your thoughts on maybe I'm taking you away from the other things you wanted to talk about.
No, you're on a good topic there. I don't know the answer to how many people it takes to make that perfect commune. It's very elusive because people are flawed. But Tom Stapleton will be talking about that at Raising Up the Remnant. I'm excited to listen to that myself. I just know that people need to make their own decisions for where they live right now. I'm not thinking about the community so much. Now, granted, if you're making a land choice and moving choice, you could find out who's in the area. There's nothing wrong with trying to get close to other people who are like-minded, either Torah pursuance, the holidays you observe in the way they land. Those are good things to do, but we've discovered that you need to have skin in the human being is so flawed that you have to have your own piece of land, your own responsibilities. I'm not seeing yet where someone can own all the land and people come on it and work equally and everything goes well. So you really need to get your own place and feel like you got to provide for your own family in isolation. Then Father puts others around you and you can start trading and start doing that things you were talked about, trading clothing or trading services for this and that. Well, that'll be blessing on top of blessing, right? But I don't think people should wait for the commune situation.
I'm
acres.
Yeah, no, yeah, it sounds kind of like that sounds cultish. I know you are breaking up a little bit there, brother. But yeah, no, I'm not talking about forming a cult. I'm just saying to start thinking in these terms. To start. Yeah, we lost you again. But to start thinking in those terms, if you were able to financially, or even now, just to start able to start planning wisely in a regard. Maybe you can't immediately do that, but the immediate steps for you are, what can I do today to start working towards that? How can I plan in that fashion? What can I do right now that perhaps goes in that direction? Perhaps there's somebody.
That's a great question.
We have single mothers. A lot of, unfortunately, we have many, thanks to the social engineering of the evil people and all around us here in the West. We have a lot of single mothers, and they're thinking to themselves, well, I can't do that on my own. Okay, maybe you can't, but do you know families who are following the Father, who have a love for the world, for the Lord, and saying, hey, we have acreage, we could use help in doing this every year. Maybe you can join up with a family who already has that and say, hey, let me give a part of my time to help you with yours, to earn some portion back of that for my individual. Is there not a family out there who is doing this, who doesn't think that that's not something the Father would want them to do? If you have that
And
to do, is
yeah,
to
and
let them join with you
about,
in doing that. I mean,
you're talking about the heart.
Am I way off here?
No, well, you're talking about the heart. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay, you're talking about the heart. So I'd say if people's first steps for them to do is to, if you have a heart, if you feel like, boy, I would really love to get out and start doing some of the things that Chad and Darrin are talking about. I have met a lot of people that have prayed for Father to provide a way for this to happen and it not come past. I think people are just think it's impossible, but if you're feeling a calling, you should start praying and saying, Father, it does seem like a way for me to get out to the land and to get free of the city and something.
You're breaking up, Darrin. You're breaking up, Darrin, so bad. We're only getting like every 6th or 7th word there. But I think what you said is, I think you may be surprised if you don't limit what the Father can do. Begin and just begin making that plan and start towards that, and see what He does to make that happen. I think that's kind of what you said.
Yes.
Okay. Yes. So I'm going to let you, we got just to actually, believe it or not, there's only about 12 minutes left here, Darrin. I don't want to take away was there anything else on your mind that you wanted to share? I don't want to take away from your ability to do that here before the end of the show.
No, again, let's do it.
And we lost him. Well, Darrin, I'm just going to go ahead and wrap up the show tonight. That's okay, brother. You're going to get your fiber back on here in a few weeks, and maybe we'll just repeat the show. Let me just call him and have him talking to my microphone. I don't know if he can hear me or not. I'm just going to call him up on my phone here. Give me a second, guys. And I'll put him up here, and I'll add him in here. Just give me a second. I know it's live, but hey, Darrin, I'm calling you.
Okay, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, yeah, no, you gotta call the other let's, you know what, all I can say is let's quit torturing people with this bad connection. I think they should just go to raisinguptheremnant.com and sign up for our subscription. You can hear more about what we're doing with the ministry and that we've been talking about. So, or check us out on Facebook, Raising Up the Remnant. find it on Facebook.
Excellent. Yeah, do all those things. We'll have Darrin on again. Darrin's got some people he's going to bring on and talk to as a host and co-host. I'll have him. Maybe I'll have him and Ian on as co-host, and we'll have some roundtable discussion about different topics and stuff coming up here in the future. Exciting things coming up. I'm excited to see who Darrin brings on the show and interviews. The bottom line is, folks, keep loving each other, keep supporting each other. I'm excited to see, if you missed it, Chris was sharing that there's some new shows coming here to the Take on the World TV. And I'm excited to see what those are. I'm still working on the marathon project that we're going to do for raising money for the PECs. So that's making progress, slow, but it is making progress. Like I said, it's a huge undertaking, and it's all going to happen. Those are going to be pre-recorded shows. They'll happen one after another, but hang in there until we see you again next Monday. This has been Disputed Alliance, Take on the World TV. Don't forget to go to the website, get your head warmers. Darrin, you're like me and Chris, you don't have any hair. These things are fantastic for keeping your heads warm. I'm telling you, $10 plus shipping. You don't get a better deal than that. And we'll see you next Monday. Disputed Alliance.
Yep.
Take care.
Thanks, Chad. Thanks.